All right, so I'll tell you a little story. As you know, Stompin Stu Thomsen has been back under the SE wing for the last few years or so. Back in the late 70s, he had his own signature bike, the Stu Thomsen replica, as all of you guys are aware. When we first started working with Stu a few years ago for our 40-year anniversary, we did the STR-29, and when we started that project, the STR-1 Quadangle doesn't exist. There's only one of them floating around in the whole world, I think. And so I used pictures and sent these pictures and took these pictures over to the factory to kind of recreate this bike with the double down tubes wrapping beneath the bottom bracket in a 29-inch frame. And that's what we did for our 40-year anniversary, and we made this bike right here, the STR-29 Quadangle. That was in 2017, and then the next year we made the STR-26, 26-inch version of the Quadangle, STR-1 old school down tubes wrapping below the bottom bracket. And then the next year, in 2019, we made the STR-24, again with the down tubes wrapping beneath the bottom bracket, Stu Thomsen replica. The STR stands for Stu Thomsen replica. And then, so that was 3 years in a row, and the writing was kind of on the wall at that stage as to what would we do the next year. And here we are in the next year, and this is actually the frame drawing of the actual frame drawing of the bicycle, and you can see right here, model year, that stands for model year 2020, SE STR-1 20-inch Quadangle. And this is the actual frame drawing. So this is what we've been working on for quite a while, and I'll kind of take you through some of the steps it took to get this bike produced. So in the rear dropouts, of all of our limited edition bikes, we put custom serial numbers on the inside of the dropout in the rear. And this is Stu Thomsen Replica 1, and then the year 2020, 2020, and each one will be numbered 001, 002, 003. We've done that with all of Stu's bikes, so all of them are individually numbered. And this bike that we're making, this STR-1 Quadangle, this is actually the geometry. It is a longer bike. It's a 21.7-inch top tube, so it is a bike for a big boy like Stompin Stu and some of you gorillas out there. So it's essentially the same size as a double XL race frame, so a 21.7-inch top tube. And then I'll show you a couple pictures, from the factory when they were building this bike. Here's a picture of the actual frame. This is when it was raw. This is the first frame that they made. They sent me the pictures to test, and then eventually I got the actual bike to test. But this was the first frame they made. Here you can see the welds underneath the bottom bracket that weld the double down tubes beneath the bottom bracket, nice and sturdy. Then these other pictures are just a few other miscellaneous pictures of the frame, of the welds. The welds are super clean. We've had the frame made at the same factory. Actually, all Quadangles since I think 2008 when we first made the first ever Quadangle loop tail, chromoly Quadangle loop tail in our retro line. I think it was 2008 was the first year. Ever since then, we've only worked with one factory to make these frames. So there's never been any variance of where we have made any Quadangle loop tail, whether what size, 20, 24, 26, or 29. So again, just some other pictures of the frame. And then what's unique here is this frame, actually, this first one they made is not stamped. So there's one bike floating around out there that has no stamp on it, which will even be more of a collector's edition. So there's one bike out there with no serial number stamp, and then all the rest in the production will have serial number stamped. So this is an unstamped dropout. All right, I'll show you now some of the graphics we worked on when we were first developing this bike. And when we first started working on this bike, Stu wanted a raw frame. He said, hey, let's do it raw. Let's do it super old school and make it raw. And that's what we're wanting to do in the beginning. You can see right here, the upper left circle, it says raw for the frame. It was going to look like this. And this is back in September 5th of 2018. So over a year and a half ago, we were going to do a raw frame. And the more I worked with the factory and the more I did my research, this frame, actually another little side tidbit, Quadangle frames, ever since 2008, every Quadangle frame has been made in Taiwan, not in China. So all of those Quadangle frames are made in Taiwan. shipped over to our factory in China, painted, assembled, shipped from China. The sticker on the bike says made in China, but in actuality, the frame is made in Taiwan. And a lot of times, this bike, for example, the stem is made in Taiwan. The seat is made in Japan. The cranks, the Redline flight cranks were made in Taiwan, so a lot of this bike was actually made. The hubs were made in Taiwan. The headset's made in Taiwan. A lot of this bike is made in Taiwan. Actually, the grips, the donuts, I go on and on, I think, the pad set are all made in Taiwan, but it's assembled in China. So that's why it says on the bike, made in China. But most parts are made in Taiwan on a lot of our higher end retro bikes. But anyway, so Stu wanted a raw frame, and I wanted to make Stu happy. So we were going to do a raw frame. But the more I worked with the factory, the more I did my research. By the time they make this raw frame and keep it raw and send it, from Taiwan and, the full production run of hundreds of frames, over to our factory, and then the frames sit there, and then they get painted. By the time that bike would get clear coated, it would be too rusted and too much failure rate would happen. So our factory denied and said, no, we can't do it, because they're like, we know you, Todd, you're going to want this frames to be perfect, and they're not all going to be perfect, and we're going to have to throw a lot of them away. So that stage we had to skip out on the raw frame. And second choice.
Todd,
Yep.
This Stu.
Come here.
It's all excuses, okay?
hey,
I'm still I'm gonna get a raw one.
Hey, the factory pays my bills. I gotta pays my checks. I gotta listen to them. But hey, I wanted to make Stompin Stu happy. But so second choice was, hey, let's do it in Tough Guy Tan. Tan was always an original color back in the day. And we went through a couple of different versions of the Tough Guy Tan. This is version number 1, with the tan frame and fork and black accents. And then we changed the pad set, and it looked better, but it still, it looks old school, but it still didn't look, that great, And then we we put a chrome fork on there. You see now the fork is changed to chrome, and this was like, okay, there it is, old school look, but something was just kind of eating at me, and I had conversations with Stu as well. I was like, man, this Tough Guy Tan, the super old school dudes love it, but, if we look at our sales history, any frame that we've made in Tough Guy Tan, and ironically enough, the first time we made a 20-inch Quadangle loop tail frame set available, or just frame, it was Tough Guy Tan color. Anyway, Tough Guy Tan bikes sell like shit, and they're not well received, So anyway, so finally I said, you know what, let's keep the bike in the STR 29, 26, 24 family, and also thinking some collectors out there might have the other 3 bikes or one of the other bikes and want to have those bikes together. So we didn't want a tan bike to kind of look like it's bastardized stepchild. So we almost went with this color, and in the last second we said, hey, you know what? There's no brown and tan on this bike, so let's change those pads from black, and let's make them brown, and also let's add some brown accents on the bike. And this is essentially what the bike's going to look like. And you see here on the revision date, this is the 19th revision that we made to this graphic. So 19 times we changed something. And when we finally confirmed it, it was in May of 2019, which was 8 months ago, and over 6 months after we started this project. So, creating a bike and bringing a bike to market definitely takes some time. All right, now I'll just show you some little inner workings of what comes behind the bike, or the things that need to happen behind the bike. This is the sticker sheet that I need to approve that shows the actual stickers going on the bike and the sizes of the stickers. This here is the pad set artwork. We send it over to the pad set vendor. We send all the sizing artwork. We got to double check that everything is right. So that's the pad set artwork. And then here is the first picture of the frame. So this is the first picture you guys have seen. So, we did go with that blue. We did go with the tan and brown, and we did go with some brown accents. And you see on the headset, we actually have the SE Wing logo in the aluminum Tangay headset, and you can see the double down tubes wrapping beneath the frame. take you through some other pictures. The rear tire is basically it kind of mimics an old school Carlisle Aggressor tire with the big square knobbies, and also the seat. This is a Cashamax seat. So in the back of the seat, this is made in Japan. The back of the seat does say Cashamax, but on the side we have the SE Wing logo in there in gold. So that's a custom, unique seat that Cashamax made primarily just for us. And then also another thing. This bike, if you probably already recognize in the graphics, had Redline flight cranks on it. And as most of you guys know or don't know, Redline changed ownership. Redline company was sold a few months ago, 5-6 months ago. When that happened, I basically lost all of my contacts at Redline to spec these cranks. So we had to make a last minute change and use a different crank. The other crank we're using is really cool, and we're using a 44 tooth chainring on a Spider. But at this stage, when these photos were taken back in September, we had Redline cranks, so we had to make a kind of a last minute spec change. Like I said, just due to the nature that Redline was under new ownership, and I wasn't able to get a hold of anyone and get approval to use their cranks. And then right here, this is actually the seat clamp. Stu said he wanted, a Suntour, the old school Suntour, SR Suntour seat clamp. And this is something that I found that was, pretty close, and we developed it a little bit, but it's not a Suntour seat clamp, but that's kind of the look and style that Stu wants. So when Stu wants something, we give it to him. All right, and then next on the little list of going through the parts, this is I'd say one of the most unique stories, besides the frame for the bike, is, back in the, 80s, there was this ODI Mushrooms made the collector's signature series of grips for a lot of pros, and Stu Thomsen was one of the guys. And, they made these grips, and, this was back in the 80s. And when we started doing the first STR-29 Quadangle a few years ago, I hit up ODI and I said, hey, man, it would be so cool to have a Stu Thomsen signature grip. And ODI said, they're like, man, that mold of this dual ply, the original grip was just called the Mushroom. And then once it was dual ply, meaning two colors, that was the Mushroom too. But they said, hey man, that mold, it was, we made that mold in 1979. We haven't used it in quite a while. And we don't have any of the signatures anymore. The signature molds were with the old ODI owner. And somewhere along the line, they were destroyed, or he lost them or something. So what they had to do is create a new mold. So Stu Thomsen gave us a new signature, and also we didn't want to have Stu's exact same signature because we didn't want to ruin the collectability of these old school grips. And even BJ has a set of these Stu Thomsen grips, so we didn't want to ruin the collectability of the old school ones that are still floating around there. But take a look at Stu's signature, and this is back in the 80s. Early 80s, and now we have the new Stu Thomsen signature grip, and we've used this grip on the ODI Mushroom too. We've used it on the last 3 bikes, so this is the 4th bike we put it on. But you can see Stu's signature has changed a little bit. He's getting a little old, and his hand is not quite as steady as it used to be. Just kidding, Stu. No, that's a perfect signature. But yeah, so we've got the ODI grips on there, and then obviously the Stu Thomsen grip donuts. And then a couple other little things that come with the bike is a unique sticker sheet. This is in the box when the bike is available. And speaking of which, the bike will not be available until around July. And the reason for the delay, ironically enough, is actually a production delay from Cashamax. So Cashamax seat was like a 60-day delay or something like that. So that's the reason it's coming out this summer. But you guys are seeing this bike, you guys are seeing these photos and these graphics of it, for the first time over there in Australia. Another thing that comes with the bike is an awesome Stu Thomsen trading card. Each of these cards are actually signed by Stu. If you ever want to make Stu Thomsen if you want to make him angry, you send him hundreds and hundreds of trading cards and ask him to sign them. But he's always been a pal, and he's always signed them all. But this time, this bike will be limited. I'll tell you the limited edition numbers for America in a second. But this is the front of the card that Stu will be signing. He'll send them back to me. I'll take them over to the factory, and they'll be inserted into every single bike box. So and this is the back of the card. And the bike in America, we will order 300 bikes into America. So 300 in America. And I think Craig McGregor over there, he could confirm, but I think he's ordered 80 into Australia. How many?
75.
Okay, I was close. Yeah, so 75 are coming into Australia, so they'll be coming in the summer. And I forgot to look up those numbers, but I think another maybe 40 were ordered in Europe and England. So the total production numbers are definitely less than 500 for the world. And that was one PO. We ordered one time, and that was it. So there's no other orders that will get tacked on months later. There was one time to order it. They were ordered, and this bike is one and done. However quick they sell out, that's perfectly fine. So, all right, and then here, this is actually going to be really hard for you guys to see. But this is actually the spec sheet of a bike. I just kind of walked you through some different items, and how specing a bike and designing a bike, how long the process takes. This is you can't read the writing here, I don't think. It's a line item of every single part on a bike. So there's about 60 different parts on a bike, and it's super detailed, but when you get it right, and you make Stu Thomsen happy, and you recreate one of his most prized possession bikes from back in the 70s, and then you've done a home run. And here it is. This is the STR-1 Quadangle. That is a production bike that will be available this year.
Yeah.
Hope you guys enjoy it.
Keep in mind, we're the first people in the
right.
world to see this.
Okay, thanks guys.
Yeah, Todd.
Have fun with Stompin Stu. See ya. Have fun. Thank you. Bye.